Hello there, folks. While I haven't trained my back with any direct work sets in strength training for the last 5 months, and my back is looking like this lately, how is it possible that my back is still this muscular? It flies in the face of the adage, use it or lose it. So what the hell is going on here? What's a decent explanation? Anabolic drugs don't work as an explanation, as I've never done any. Neither does the explanation that my back was a lot more muscular in the past, and it's sunk way down to this level. This is right around my peak level. Neither does indirect work for the back. For years long ago, I just did indirect work for my back, and it was nowhere near this level of muscularity. So what explains it? The most plausible explanation I can come up with to explain this is something I call hang-on effect, or HOE. Hang-on effect is the phenomenon of when your body hangs on to most all the progress it made training in something for months or even years on end, even if you aren't training for that particular something for months or even years on end. I first really noticed the effect in Olympic athletes who were training using traditional linear periodization, and they seemed to consistently hang on to progress they'd made in prior training cycles from many months ago, or even over a year before that, even though the emphasis of their training had completely changed in that time. For example, some would often do a higher rep training cycle months away from the important competition of the season, and they would focus on gaining some muscle. Then their training would shift emphasis closer to the competition, and they'd lower the reps and often cut out exercises. But despite these things, they would often hang on to most of the muscle they built in the earlier phase, and they would hang on to most all the strength they built in exercises they hadn't done for months or even over a year. I also noticed the hang-on effect in both myself and also people who are former athletes who spent years owning their craft in their sport. For example, I worked years to improve my vertical leap, and I got myself to the point where I could dunk a basketball. I then had a knee injury and I stopped the jump training for years. Then after years off from jumping, I tried it again, and while I couldn't dunk, I could still hang from the rim. I'd hung on to a lot of the progress I'd made. Another example would be the numerous times I've done strength training exercises for many months or even years at a time, and then I'd take a break from those exercises for months or years at a time due to either lack of progress or injury concerns. When I came back to those exercises after that long break, almost without exception, I was within about 15% or less of my peak strength and performance levels. I've seen the hang-on effect manifest in training for speed, strength, endurance, muscle growth, and technical skill. I've seen it happen in both myself and other people over and over again for a vast amount of years. But that's with people who earned serious gains with hard work over a decent period of time. I'm certainly not talking about beginners here, or people who just have worked out for the first week of the year in the gym and don't come back until the next year, only to repeat the cycle. I'm also not looking to give people an excuse or a license to be lazy in general. But what I am saying is that if you fight for gains and make serious progress over a period of, say, years, and then you take years off from whatever it was that you made progress in, don't expect to suddenly lose all the progress over a period of, say, days, weeks, or even months that you fought hard in training over those years to get. Keeping this in mind, I've been able to use the hang-on effect concept to improve my overall body and physical abilities over time. As one example of this, I might focus on doing a particular exercise in strength training for a muscle group for a while, make big progress in it, and take it to a point where I start to plateau in that exercise or I get mild injuries from it, and then I'll switch to a different exercise that recruits the same muscle group, and I'll stop doing the other exercise. Then I can start the process all over again with the new exercise, and I can get a lot of new gains in that exercise, all while hanging on to most of the gains I made in the first exercise. I'll mention that it seems that different people's bodies can respond quite differently when it comes to hang-on effect. Person A might build his bench press over years, take a few months off from all pressing, and come back 15% weaker than when he left. Person B might spend the same amount of time building up his bench press to the same levels as person A, then take months off from all pressing, and be within 5% of his all-time best bench press when he comes back to it. I call the ability to hang on to progress after a break physical memory. And like computers can differ considerably in the amount of RAM they possess, and people can vary considerably in how well they can memorize things, it's also similar in a sense when it comes to physical memory with hang-on effect. That's about all I have to say on this topic for the moment. Perhaps I shall see you folks later.